just waiting a few more minutes for Councilwoman Angie Starkle to get here. But we were just going to do a short little introduction. We're here today with Misty Frazier. She is the Nebraska Indian Child Welfare with the Nebraska Indian Child Welfare Coalition. Sorry, and then we also got Nicole Bad Moccasin, the CHW out of Lincoln, and then Kitty Yonker, the CHW here in Niobrara. And I think Angie just pulled up, so we'll just give it a couple more seconds and then we'll start our presentation.
And what is CHW?
Community health worker. Yes. Nicole made the long drive today from Lincoln.
I did.
So we're starting. So
It's my bad.
no, it's okay. We just kind of got it started so people can hop on.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to start, we're gonna start today. Angie's gonna give a little prayer. So
I'm going to cover the camera.
Where
for
are we
the
going
prayer.
here?
oh, okay.
Yeah, first I will-
Cover the camera, she's gonna start.
Mm-hmm. We good to go?
Okay.
Wakanda wahube ka ombede weave the ha wa kedi on good day on wa gisida omba idawa gle on wa gisida no more wa kedi on good day e wa hoin Niajinga Angutai Ewa Point. Shana Ekipe Kategana Ewi Wongi Day.
Thank you. Good to see you, Angie.
Oh, good to see you too. All right, and then Misty's, so our topic today is missing and murdered Indigenous women. So Misty's gonna take over from here, and then we'll just save our questions for the end. So all right, I'll just take over.
Thank you. I want to say Ampete Washte, Echante Washte, Nape Chusapi, Ampomini Boja Demie, Na Washichu ya, Misty Thomas Frazier Makia Pie, Na Isanti Damakota, Na Hulu Wakbada Edwati. I said good day to you. I shake your hand with a good heart. Happy to be here today. I really am honored by that the Ponca tribe has asked me to be a part of this presentation and to speak on behalf of Indigenous women and girls missing and murdered, and also relatives. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But so my Dakota name is Ampo Mini Boja, which translates to Misty Dawn. And I am Isanti Dakota, and I'm also Tlingit of Alaska. And I live maybe about 20 miles from here on the Santee Sioux Reservation in the Hobu-Wakbata district. So I just wanted to do my introduction here, and like they said, I'm the executive director for the Nebraska Indian Child Welfare Coalition. I've been with the coalition really since it started in 2008 as a grassroots organization. And so you see our, and I'm not sure how well people can see our screen here. We had to make some adjustments because of some technological adjustments because we had to move locations and everything like that. So bear with us today, and I think they're going to post the slides to the website later on, so you can have a better look at my slides. But today we're going to, like they talked about, we're going to talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and relatives, because it's not just women and girls; it's also many of our men relatives as well. You can go to the next slide. So I did my introduction already, and that's what this slide is about. It's just a picture of myself, my daughter, and a couple of nieces and my nephew, and really that on the bottom there it says Indian children culturally connected, rights protected. And that is what we stand for with the Nebraska Indian Child Welfare Coalition. And so the work that we do really extends into the MMIW, MMIWG, the work that we do there as well. There's an intersection, and I'm going to talk about that as well as we get going. So this first slide is, at the top it says Silence Voices, and there's that red handprint, and it says hashtag MMIW. And so some people may not know what MMIW is. So MMIW stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, and MMIWG stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. And then there's also MMIWG2S, and that is Women and Girls Two-Spirit. And also there's MMIR, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives. So I just wanted to give a few of those definitions so that people know like what that stands for. Because I know like maybe this is new to some people and they don't know and understand. So. And a lot of times you see the red handprint with the MMIW movement, and that's really what it's about. It's a movement, and it's about raising awareness about the violence against Indigenous women, girls, and relatives. And really, honestly, it's nothing new. This is something that has been going on for a very, very long time, for many, many generations. And it affects, all of the Indigenous relatives across the United States and Canada. It's probably nothing that's not, just here as what, in the U.S. and Canada. But really, it has gained recognition and awareness that it deserves. Like I said, this has been going on for a very, very long time. It's just gaining that recognition. So a lot of times with the MMIW movement, you see that red handprint. That red handprint has become a symbol that is used to indicate the solidarity with missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in North America, and that this is an ongoing crisis, as Native American women are up to 10 times more likely to be murdered or sexually assaulted in some regions of the United States. And so it's really about giving voice to those that are missing and murdered. You can go to the next slide. I was really hoping you could see my graphics because I was able to find some really good ones. This one is the Red Dress Project. We see quite a bit of this, and some people might ask why red. And so what they say is that some tribes have said that our relatives that are missing and murdered, if they're on the other side, that's the only color that they can see. And so that's why red has become the predominant color to represent MMIW in the movement. And so we've had some really amazing artwork projects that have been created to show and to symbolize and to put that into view of and to really have an impact and to help raise awareness. And so that's what the picture is on the screen. It's the Red Dress Project, and it really, really is impactful. I forgot to change a slide. The next slide is about the National Week of Action. And so it's really about a call to action for the human rights crisis. And so that's what we're in right now. We're in the National Week of Action. And so tomorrow, May 5th, is the National Day for Recognition for MMIW. And again, it's really about raising awareness about the issues that affect our Indigenous women, girls, and relatives, and the high violence rates that our people face. And so this is the call to action week is call to action for the human rights crisis on the number of missing and murdered cases of Indigenous relatives and how it's disproportionately higher. It's an awareness campaign, and it's really urging Congress to reaffirm VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act, and FIPSA, which is the Family Violence Prevention and Services Act, and to get a reaffirmation of those two acts, which are really, really important for providing services through the tribes to our tribal members. And it really started due to a failed response of federal, state, and local agencies to appropriately investigate and document missing and murdered cases of Indigenous relatives, and it's really a call for justice. The next slide is about the lack of data, and what we do have some statistics, but we know that the data is not very good, that there's not really a good system for tracking these cases. And we know that sometimes they may not get documented at all. They may get documented possibly as another race or ethnicity, and so they don't get properly documented and tracked as maybe as an Indigenous person. And oftentimes these cases go unsolved. They become cold cases. But what we do know is that in the United States, Native women are twice as likely to experience violence than any other demographic. And 1 in 3 will experience sexual assault, 67% by a non-Native perpetrator. And like I said earlier, Indigenous women are 10 times more likely to be killed than the average national murder rate. We have some more statistics here. Like I said, it's really, really limited, and some of the numbers are very, they vary quite a bit. But what we know, and I didn't print in color, so it's kind of hard to see. That there are approximately 5,712 incidents of missing and murdered Native American and Alaska Native women as of 2016. Only 116 cases were logged into the DOJ database. That is a significant amount of undocumented cases. And 96% are on some reservations. The number of sexual violence against Native women committed by non-Natives. So 96% of those are committed by non-Native perpetrators. And like I said, they're going to share these on the website. You can anybody can Google it up on statistics as well. The number of 94% had been raped or coerced in their lifetime, and this is of Native women. 42% attempted suicide at some point if they had been raped or coerced. 53% lacked permanent housing. 34% binge drank on a weekly or daily basis after they were initially attacked. And only 8% of cases of a rape victim's first attack ended in a conviction. 86% reported being affected by historical trauma. Kind of a little bit closer to home because we are in Nebraska. I pulled as much Nebraska data as I possibly could. And there are, as of March 31st, 2020, there were 490 missing person cases identified. And that and those cases spanned from June 8th, 1940 to March 31st, 2020. The cases in Nebraska are 4.6% of the total number of cases. And given that Nebraska's population, Native American population in Nebraska is 1.5%, so that just shows the disproportionality that are, even in Nebraska. Our numbers are small, but there's a disproportionate number of Indigenous women and girls and relatives included in that missing and murdered cases. The next slide is a comparison of race distribution, and to show that really Native American and African American are disproportionately represented in the Nebraska missing persons population. And this comes, all of this data actually comes from, there was a report that was put out, and if you go to the next slide, it's called What's Being Done About It. And again, that date up there, May 5th, 2018, was declared National Day of Awareness. And then, and so more locally in Nebraska, there was LB 154 that was recently passed. And there's a report that came out, and so I wanted to talk about that real quickly. That LB 154, and a lot of recognition needs to go to Judy Goshgabash with the Nebraska Indian Commission. I know Judy is a Ponca tribal member, and she worked very diligently on getting LB 154 passed, and she was a part of that entire process. And there was some others that were a part of that, but what came out of it was a report. They looked at the data, as much data as they possibly could in Nebraska. They did a listening session tour, and they compiled all of that into a report. And so that's actually where I got a lot of the data and statistics from. And I also have some things that are, their recommendations from that report. And I feel like that report is going to be very, very important when we look at, well, what are next steps? What can we do about these issues, on a larger scale, as far as like the Nebraska legislature, Nebraska laws, the Nebraska State Patrol, FBI, tribal agencies all collaborating and working together. But this report has come out, and it's called the LB 154 report, Prevalence of Missing Native American Women and Children in Nebraska, Barriers to Reporting and Investigating, and Opportunities on Partnerships. That came out in May 2020, so it's only about a year old. And so the research and writing team was Dr. Tara Richards, Dr. Emily Wright, Alyssa Nystrom, and Kirby Williams. And like I said, Judy also had a big hand in that. And so I want to thank them for their work and putting together this report. And so, like I said, a lot of the data and statistics that I was able to pull came from this report. And so the next slide is on challenges. There's a lot of challenges when we start talking about, the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, for reporting and investigating, making sure that that's, being documented. Where is it documented? How is it documented? There's a couple of nationwide systems that are being used. Some tribes may report on those missing persons websites, or those missing persons. It's called I think NAMUS is one of the organizations that helps track missing persons. And some tribes may report, some tribes may not. And it's not just tribes, it's also state and county agencies as well. And every agency kind of has their own way of doing things. and it's not a streamlined process. And so that's part of the challenge. I know in their report they would like to see, and I do agree with it, that would be a really good thing in just helping with tracking the cases, but to have them have a streamlined process that everybody uses. So that's part of the challenges. Some people might think, might have a question on why is violence so high against Native American women and girls, and it's also, like I said, our male relatives as well, Two-Spirit. And, in Indian country, we have high rates of, our Native American community suffer from many interrelated economic, health, and social challenges, including poverty, unemployment, lower educational success. We have higher dropout rates from high school, poorer health care, less access to insurance, health insurance, or health care, high substance abuse issues, high incidences of child welfare cases, disproportionality in the child welfare system. We have higher ACEs scores. So ACEs is the Adverse Childhood Experiences. And studies have shown that Indigenous people have higher rates of ACEs scores. And so like adverse childhood experiences like exposure to substance abuse, incarceration, domestic violence, sexual assault or sexual abuse as a child, child maltreatment like child abuse, neglect, all of those kinds of things. And so studies have shown that our people have higher adverse childhood experience scores, and I cannot tell you like how detrimental that is to our people as our young people grow up and they grow into that. They have so much trauma in their life, and so really it's about historical trauma. So what that historical trauma does is it creates more trauma and more trauma and more trauma. And so we have these high rates in all of these areas, and it contributes to this, to the issues of the MMIW, MMIWG, MMIR, because a lot of the, that's that enticement piece where they're, perpetrators are enticing young women, young girls, or that human sex trafficking on that side of it. But then they use that lack of maybe lack of resources. Maybe it's housing, food, a family. They use that to entice them. But also a big part of this also is domestic violence. We see a lot of victims that have fallen, as a part of this because of domestic violence. They experience years and years of domestic violence, unable, and there's a lot of issues that, and all of those issues affect that as well. Being able to, as a victim, to become a survivor of domestic violence, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of resources. And if they don't have easy access to those resources, they may go right back. And so they don't have the help that they need to pull themselves out of that. And so, all of these issues are interrelated, interconnected, and contribute to the MMIW, the issues that have created the so many cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. This is some more data statistics on violence against women and children, and really that's what it is. It's just to show that, that what the research says, what the data says is that the number of Indigenous women and girls, the violence that our people face is at higher rates than other races and ethnicities in the United States. and that really just it contributes to those numbers of missing and murdered women and girls and relatives. And it also shows, like I was talking about, child maltreatment. We have our Native youth experience violent crimes at rates up to 10 times the national average. And we also know that there is a disproportionate number of Native children in the child welfare system. That's really, where my area is and where our focus is for the Nebraska Indian Child Welfare Coalition. That next slide is ICWA cases in Nebraska. It should show a map of Nebraska to show where the ICWA cases are in Nebraska. And it really, the child welfare system you can look at, as somewhat as a pipeline to MMIW, MMIR issues. And we're really trying to work towards reforming the child welfare system, because we know that the child welfare system only adds trauma, and it adds to the adverse childhood experiences. We want to see more services being provided to families to help families rehabilitate, and that's really what it's about. When people ask, well, what are we going to do about it? And that's what we need to do. And is each and every individual, this is the way I look at it, is that it starts with ourselves. If we can heal ourselves, because each and every one of us as Native people, as Native women, as Native men, mothers and fathers, we have a lot of healing to do. And if we can heal ourselves, we can heal. We can help prevent these things. As at an early age with our children, we can help give them the things that they need to be stronger adults. And if we can help heal ourselves, then we heal our families. And then once we heal our families, we can help heal our communities. And so that's really how I look at it. And so we want to prevent the trauma, and lessen the trauma that families go through. And so that's a lot of the work that we do within the child welfare system. Is we really want to see system reform to see more prevention. Just checking to see how we're doing on time here. We have, also in the LB 154 report, are some recommendations for law enforcement and for some other areas. And so this is right out of their report. The slides are going to be posted. I know you probably can't see it because it's really, really small text. But these are some recommendations for the Nebraska State Patrol and tribal and non-tribal law enforcement cooperation. And there's also recommendations for more awareness, just like we're doing today, is we're trying to promote awareness for what are the issues and how do we address the issues of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And, we really want, like I said, I want to focus in on awareness, prevention, and to promote healing. And so there's more recommendations here on, what we can do as, because it's not just a law enforcement issue. It's, all of the system, it's a system-wide issue. So courts, social services, healthcare providers, how often are these young women and girls going in for healthcare, and maybe, the signs could be seen in a healthcare system, also the education system, recognizing those signs of, what does that look like? And a lot of people think that, it's like on the movies, and it's really not. Some of the signs and symptoms are going to be, very kind of subtle. And a lot of times it's happening, and some people think, well, it's not happening here. Well, it may not. It's not going to look like it does on movies, where you might see where girls are being trafficked and they're being sold, they're being traded, they're being drugged, like that stuff happens too. But a lot of times, the way that what it looks like and how it happens in Indian countries, because of, like I said, because of the poverty. It's in exchange for, maybe shelter, food, clothing, maybe cell phones, name brand clothing, those things that they typically may not be able to afford if they were, just on their own. And so it may not look like, what we think, because of movies and media. So it's really a system-wide approach to recognition and so awareness, prevention, and to promote healing. There are some things that the Nebraska Indian Commission have, that they put in that they would be wanting to carry through on. And I would say that, here in Nebraska, that like the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, they just recently got a grant that we're going to be helping with, and we, meaning the Nebraska Indian Child Welfare Coalition, that we're going to be helping and assisting with, in response to human trafficking and sex trafficking. And so that's some of the work that's going to be happening. And so we're looking at system-wide response. Again, I know that part of that is going to be looking at a services assessment, service array assessment of what services are being provided, where are the gaps in services, how can we improve on those things. Also looking at legislation. Is there any legislation that needs to be passed? Training for, system-wide training, there's a big focus on law enforcement, but like I said, there's other areas as well. With NICWIC, we're going to be focusing on, training and working with the tribes to do some system improvement there. And so those are some things that are really recent that we're working on, that I know that is being done. And so I, again, with this report, that it will be, picking up on where, the recommendations that this report has, that they have given, and then, like I said, doing some of that service reassessment. Sorry, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. The next slide is my our contact information with NICWIC. We have a Facebook page, we're on Twitter, we have a website, I have our phone number and our email addresses there. And again, our one of the taglines that we use with NICWIC is Indian children culturally connected, rights protected. And and that goes in a lot of different areas. With NICWIC, our focus is the Indian Child Welfare Act, but really, it comes along, in all of those different areas as well. And so, there is more of the push for MMIW, more recognition for MMIW, MMIWG, MMIR, MMIWG2S. And so that's kind of how our work ties into this movement as well. I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute. So I know questions, and then you also had some things that you wanted to share.
We had tried to get some law enforcement out here just to kind of give us some safety tips, but they were unfortunately they weren't able to make it. So I just kind of put together a little bit safety tips, like if you are out and about. And so the first thing is, don't be scared, be safe. Number one, stay alert and be aware of your surroundings. Get off your phone, make sure your headphones are out, and then just be aware, situational awareness, be prepared. When walking, try to, walk during the day in a public place, take a path that is well known, and then inform people where you're going, what time you're leaving, let people know when you get there, when you arrive home. And then another thing is, don't be a target. Ponytails can be an easy something for people who are trying to abduct you. It's easy to grab, so wear your hair in a bun or put it in a hat. And then people are less likely to approach you if you are walking with a dog. And then carry a safety keychain or pepper spray, bear spray, or if you're able to conceal carry. And then if you're parking or in a parking lot, choose a spot that is well lit and close to the main entrance. Be aware if anyone is loitering near your car or someone who may act, or they may have like a cast on or in a wheelchair asking you specifically for help. Say, I can't help you right now, but I can get someone to help. And if they, refuse that help, then, go get someone right away and let them know. Get security to kind of, to accompany to your car to make sure you're safe. And then once you're inside your car, make sure you lock the doors. And then some ways to protect yourself better at home is to improve the lighting around your house. So make sure you get motion lights, install cameras, keep your doors locked or get new locks if you're moving into a new apartment. A lot of times landlords don't change the locks, and someone may have a key, an old renter may have a key. And then you can also get like wood planks to put into your windows so they don't slide open, or your sliding glass doors, you can get wood planks to put in there. And then don't answer the door for strangers. And then if someone is at your door, make sure you confirm their identity first. And then another trick they said is to keep men's work boots by the door, so they think that there is a man living in the house, or so they're less likely to try to break in if they think a man is living there. And then if you're in a cab or an Uber or a taxi, before you get in the car, have that driver confirm who they are picking up. Don't give them your name, make them say, oh, I'm here to pick up so-and-so, to make sure that they are your driver. You can send that cab information, take a screenshot and send it to a family member or a friend and let them know. And then before you get in the car, you can check to make sure that the child safety locks aren't on. Roll the window down when you get in, so if it is locked, you can open it from the outside. And then, be on your phone with someone, like, hey, I'm here, I'm on my way, I'm at the corner of such and such. And then again, carry that safety keychain. It'll have like a window break, so if the doors are locked and the windows are locked, you can break the window. And then if you do get abducted or someone is trying to grab you, they say to get loud, act crazy. They say, vomit or even, urinate on yourself, because you're less likely to be abducted if you're acting, crazy. And then your elbow is your strongest joint, so, you gotta use your elbows to fight your way out. And then run away. Don't try to fight that person, run away. And then another thing is to get a safety app on your phone. And if you have an iPhone, if you go into your settings, there's an emergency SOS setting. You can put your information, your medical information, and then I think you can have up to 5 emergency contacts. And then when you click the off button and the side button on your phone, it'll go to your medical ID and your SOS. And so if I were to swipe that SOS, it's going to immediately call 911, and it's going to alert my emergency contacts, which is my significant other, my mom, my dad, and my stepmom, and it's going to send them my location and my medical information. And it's going to let them know that 911 was contacted, so they'll immediately know where I'm at with my location and that I'm in danger. And then if you ever do get abducted and they, you're in a trunk, there's usually a pull trunk button. Look around. I know it'll be dark. And then you can also, they say to kick out a headlight and, wave, try to get some help that way. Always trust your instincts and speak up if you're ever uncomfortable in a situation. Don't be afraid to say something like, hey, I don't feel comfortable, can we leave? Or, I feel like someone's following me, can you help me out? And if you see someone else in danger, make sure you let them know. It'd be like, hey, I think this person has been following you. Do you need help, or do you want me to accompany you to your car? And then Misty had kind of talked about some ways that our tribal agencies can improve some ways for our missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and relatives. So by restoring tribal jurisdiction to handle cases at a local and tribal level, and then allocating resources for victim services, so like she had said, housing, food sovereignty, healthcare and stuff like that, just to better our services to those members. And then improving access to federal criminal databases. So a lot of times, like you said, those people that commit some of these acts are 97, 94% non-tribal members. So getting access, like she said, kind of a streamway or a shared database to where we can access information, so we know, like, oh, this person has had a history of this. Establishing consultation protocols with tribes to respond to cases. So right now we have an issue where if it's a tribal case, if it's a county case, if it's an FBI. So, and then again, improving that data collection. So all of those services working together, health services, social services, to kind of improve in limiting those cases from happening again. And a big issue where this happens are these like man camps where like non-natives come in and they abuse our women and our children, and then we don't have access to those databases. So if this person is like a reoccurring offender, so it's really important that we build that alliance with the FBI and the tribal police and the federal government for data collecting and investigations. And then it's important to kind of the issues like the pipeline and stuff. It's important to kind of fight back on that big corporation money to prevent like the man camps and stuff from happening. So we're not having so many of these cases. And that's kind of what I had. I don't know if there was any questions for Misty or I.
No questions at this time.
No?
No.
All right, well, I do have a couple, Brooke Zalasny, I think. I don't know how to say her last name. I'm sorry, Brooke, if you see this. She had sent me some information about some of our providers with the Ponca tribe, and we can maybe add that in on the slide that we're going to post. But we have a couple, Brooke is out of the Ralston office, and she can assist the youth and adult victims and survivors within our 15 county service area. And then we have Marian Harris, out of the Sioux City office, and she covers the Charles Mix, Woodbury, and Potawatomi counties. And those are just some of the Ponca tribe workers that kind of help with the human trafficking and stuff like that. So if there aren't any questions, we'll wrap up. And again, thank you. You did a wonderful job. And I know we had kind of a rough start this morning, so I appreciate everyone holding on and bearing with us. And again, if you have any questions, just post them down below, and we'll try to get back to them within the next couple weeks. But yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.